Hi, it's Steve Hargadon. It is October 10th. We're over a third of the way through the month, Connected Educator Month. This is the cafe. The cafe is now open. This has been really, really fun. Maybe one of the most enjoyable things I've ever done professionally, these conversations, and there are plenty more. Tomorrow night, David Lurcher joins us. Let me see if I can tell you who else, because I know David's coming on. I should have looked it up in advance. So tomorrow night is David Lurcher and Bill Brennan. Oh, that's going to be fun as well. So if you've never met David, he is in the library world, and he is fascinatingly brilliant. And Bill is a school leader, and they're both well-spoken, and it will be fun. Okay. Oh, if you love libraries, the Library 2.013 conference is next week. There's a Connected Librarians Day on Monday. Go to connectedlibrarians.com. So we didn't want to leave librarians out of Connected Educator Month. And showing off her costume. I should stop talking so Anne can show off her costume. We'll get there quickly, I promise. Okie doke. And then tomorrow the Reform Symposium starts. And the keynotes for that are in the calendar. The keynotes and panels are in the calendar for Connected Educator Month, or you can go to reformsymposium.com. It's the first time I've been involved in that conference, and I think we have about 140 sessions, and they look really, really good. Okay, so Connected Educator Month, it's chugging away. If you haven't been to Ed Connector, it's very cool. Do go check it out. The book clubs are going. You will, at the end of the session, get a code. So if you are a badge person, you can pick up a badge to put in your badge backpack. And do join us. We have something going every night, every weeknight for the whole month here in the cafe. So those of you who are here, you can indicate where you're participating from. Look for the star icon to the left of the map. Click on it. You have to click twice usually. And then you can click on the map. And there's Anne outside of Melbourne, Australia. Katie's in Thailand. Wow, or Kate's in Thailand. Oh, Penny, how are you? Oh, yes, can't do the map if you're on the mobile device. And that's interesting, not seeing the map yet, but Argentina. Okay, we're doing a good job here. North America, South America, Australia, Asia. Have fun. Okay, well, we hope to make this worth your while. It will be fun. Okay, so the way this works is we'll start by having our special guests give a short 3 to 5 minute overview of who they are, what they've done, past experience, hopes for the future. We're going to ask them later to kind of drill down on one specific topic and really tell us something that they care about. But this is more for background material. So Anne, can we start with you?
Hello everyone, I'm actually at school. My students think, or my little ones think, that USA is somewhere near the top of the world. So Penny and I are probably down near the lower end of the world. I teach in Australia, in Victoria, in a small rural school. It's called Hawkesdale P12 College. So, whoops, Steve, can I show my photos quickly, please? So I hope these have loaded for you now. I teach at Hawkesdale P12 College. Our second language is Mandarin Chinese. We fit neatly into the Asian time zone, so we can very rarely connect in real time with the United States or the Northern Hemisphere unless our students come back to school early. I teach grade 3 right through to year 12, and you can see some of my classrooms there. And I also teach business management this year to senior students. The school is 250 students. There's no real mobile phone service here, but we are fairly well connected and wide. So all our students from grade 5 through to Year 12 have their own device. It's currently a little netbook, but we're about to change that because they just don't have enough guts or power in them now for what we want to do. I do work as a web conference coach or virtual conference coach part-time, and as you can see, I love immersing technology in the classroom, and global education is one of my passions. So we have lots of global projects, video conference link-ups, etc.
So I can honestly say that both of you and Alice are heroes of mine. It's brilliant to me that you're both here together. Okay, so Alice, can you do the same? I know you don't have pictures, don't worry. But can you give us kind of a bit of an overview about who you are and your background?
I'll do my best. I taught math for 14 years. I consider myself a teacher. I'm now out of the classroom, but I still work with kids and I still do some teaching. So I am teaching at Fresno State University, and I'm teaching pre-service teachers how to integrate technology into the classroom. And I feel extra blessed because I teach the prerequisite class, so I get to share my brand of Kool-Aid with everyone before they start teaching. So that's super awesome. And then I'm also teaching a high school class on Friday mornings. Even though I'm a math teacher, I am teaching an art class on Friday mornings, and another class that we call Bacon. That's what the kids wanted to call it. It actually says it on their transcript, so that's really fun, but allowing the kids to use their cell phones and BYOD, and so the class is about teaching them how to present themselves positively online. And then I am getting my doctorate at Boise State University in educational technology, and my passion is for working with teachers, so I travel all over to do workshops and conferences, and I was just in I was in Idaho this last week, and Virginia, sharing about how to use Google and Google tools, because I am a Google certified teacher, and I have 5 kids, 9, 8, 6, 3, and 1, and they're awesome.
Okay, did you say bacon?
Yes, absolutely. So I was told that if I were to teach these classes, I could do whatever I want. So we started by talking with the kids and like, well, what do you guys want to call the class? What should we do? And so one of the kids like, we should call it Bacon. So it's building academic computer online needs. So they're going to be building a PWP. That's what Steve and I do. And then looking at how to just use some HTML and things to kind of spiff up their website and to present themselves positively online. And then do it for a business in the community.
So PWP is what Alice and I call a personal web presence or profile. It's this idea of, yeah, how would you describe it, Alice?
Well, the personal web presence starts with you having your own domain and your own website and a place that represents you. So if you go to alicekeeler.com or you go to stevehargadon.com, you're going to instantly get a feel of what we are about and what we're passionate about and how to connect with us. And then more outside of that, extended beyond, it's your total web presence. So what do people know about you and feel about who you are when they just Google your name or your reputation online, and that you would take control of that and put yourself out there positively.
You know what's so interesting to me about this is whenever I give a talk at a conference and I sort of end with this set of things for teachers to do, one is to build your own online presence. And you can see just the deer in the headlights look from the educators, because it's really clear that they feel like their students should have some ownership of their own reputation online and how they connect. And it's not just about people finding you, but it's making connections, and it's very authentic. It's not about ego. But as soon as I say, well, if the students are doing it, then don't you need to do it to know how to help them do it? And that you can just feel the dead space. It's scary. And we have all of these preconceptions about, well, isn't it egotistical and the like. And I really like the Jim Groom kind of a domain of one's own idea, that if you don't control it, someone else will. So it's really important that you be able to represent yourself online. As both of you talked, I thought, you're both my friends. I mean, we have relationships through the web. I see both of you with some frequency at different places, but I actually count both of you as friends. I feel like that's really a huge bonus to me.
Couldn't agree more. I value your friendship extremely.
So, Anne, you have to leave at the top of the hour, right? Just for a minute or two.
Our school's in progress, so it's actually Friday, 10:40 a.m. So I'm actually in the staff room because all the classrooms were being used. So when the recess bell goes, I'll see what the noise level is in here, but I may have to move to the computer room where hopefully it might be a little bit, I'll be able to stay there until I finish this webinar.
Okay, so we're going to do one quick thing, and then we'll have Ann do something, and then you can take a break in and make your move. Okay, so this is an all-room activity. Everybody now has the ability to write on the whiteboard or to put a note in the chat. To write on the whiteboard, look for the A icon to the left of the whiteboard, open it up, and you can either do the paragraph tool or the single A, which is just a line. What did you learn today that was interesting? Well, it doesn't have to be in Connected Educator Month. It can be in any context whatsoever. But what was interesting to you? Oh, I work with 6-year-olds, and they're excited to be reporters of their own truths about the classroom and their learning. Oh, I love that. You know who I really love is another Australian, John Hattie, who talks about the ultimate measure of learning is learning how to learn, and do we actually measure that or help students learn to measure it themselves. Learned about 3D Game Lab LMS that allows for student choice, quest-based learning, and follows a lot of my passions for gamification. Did you type that, Alice?
Of course I did.
And learned about some of the new games and toys that students are playing with and how the real-world toys are transported into the digital game. And it looks like Anne wrote that. Anne, do you want to comment on that?
Well, I like to see what my older students are doing because sometimes you can adapt it back into the classroom. And they delightedly brought these little, I don't know what to call them, but they're like little toys that you get, say, at McDonald's. And they put it on this digital pad, and then they've got their mobile games device, and those little robotic figures are actually transported onto the screen of their mobile device. I don't know if I make sense, but I'm not very good at that lingo.
Interesting. Has anybody else done that or know about that? Learned your first sentence in German. It's part of the Learn 1,000 Words Challenge. Cool. National Novel Month is November. Sean, we don't want to hear from you if you're driving. You're certainly welcome to listen. We don't want to be complicit. We don't want the police report to say that we distracted you. The power of social media allowed me to connect with Anne this morning to change the session time for this presentation. Homa Go Kids rocked today. So much to look. 14-year-old Coda was teaching Scratch and taking problems on the fly. Awesome. So Blackboard now has apps both for iPod, Apple, and Android, but you can't see the web tour. I think you see the whiteboard. I don't think you can use your video. Interesting. Okay, what a lot of fun. Thank you for responding. So let's turn some time over to you, Anne. The goal here is for you to describe something that you're personally really invested in right now. Some form of deep thinking that you're doing, or a project, or a passion, something where you would get a chance to kind of explore a little with this group and talk about it. And as soon as you need to go, you just go, but we'll start a little bit of back and forth with you until then.
Okay, well, it's probably not really deep thinking, but it's because my students are culturally and geographically remote. I don't want them to miss out on the same opportunities that other people have in the bigger cities, etc. I don't want them to have a textbook knowledge. I want them to be able to interact and relate with people who actually live in those areas, etc. So first of all, I'd like to show you how messy my classroom management can be sometimes. On Tuesday, I had already pre-organised a speaker from Melbourne, which is about 3.5 hours drive from us. He was going to speak about the nesting boxes that they're putting up in St Kilda in the city to try and save the little bats, birds and some of the other smaller animals that live there. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they create all sorts of different nesting boxes, and then they encourage those animals or birds to nest there. But I got all my students logged on, but I hope you can see the engagement there while I'm talking as well. We logged on and they had trouble down their end with their computer. It wouldn't load, so to restart. So my students had fun on the whiteboard. So we were in Blackboard Collaborate, just like we are now. So they had fun on the whiteboard, and I thought, right, that will engage them for about 10, 15 minutes. Still no sign of Melbourne. So I saw a little Skype message come up, and it was my friend Lin from Taiwan. And she was looking for someone to do a mystery Skype with. So I thought, oh, that will fill in 10 minutes until Melbourne get organised. So I just got that organised, loaded up Skype, got some kids ready to answer their questions, and then the Melbourne people turned up. So I thought I'd better quickly monitor this virtual classroom, because even though you teach students etiquette and appropriate behaviour, you just never know. And I said to these two girls, are you happy to link up with Taiwan? Can you handle it? So they went in the back room, which is probably like the broom cupboard, Gail. And these two girls wouldn't even come on Mystery Skype 2 weeks ago. They were too shy to actually ask questions. But I hope you can see the engagement, the fun, the joy they were having, and you can see the distinctive difference between the two cultures, and how much they had fun together, learned from each other. These students in Taiwan speak Chinese, so English is their second or third language, and I just left them to it. So I want to keep looking at all the more and more with us in Asian time zones, how we overcome language, cultural barriers, etc., and how we can make learning meaningful and ongoing between some of our countries. So probably not really deep thinking, but stuff that my kids love to do, and I want to keep pursuing it.
So Anne, how often would you say that you have your students connect in that way with people outside of their classroom?
I probably would have them. I teach a whole heap of different classes, so I've got grade 3, 4 twice a week. I try and do one with them each week, because this group of students have got a lot of behavioural problems in there. But I find when we link up with another speaker or another class, they just really enjoy that. They're willing to come up and share what they know. So we did International Peace Day. We did a Google Hangout with them. I keep my fingers crossed with them, because there are real behavioural problems in there. But so far, so good. I teach senior subjects, so it's a bit difficult to do it with them, but I still do it on a teachable moment basis. And with my year 8s, we've done it once a week, probably over the last 6 weeks. But with the Skype group, little messages pop up, someone's looking for someone, so I'm usually quite happy to drop things and just spend 15 minutes so that we can connect and learn.
I still use an image of Anne bringing in the symphony orchestra to the classroom in every big presentation I give. Okay, so, and in terms of classroom management, how has that changed things, right? I mean, is it for the better, for the worse? Or does it shift things dramatically?
I'm sure it's for the better. It does shift things dramatically. I think as a teacher you need to be willing to just drop things and let that real learning take place, and then extend it and try and adapt it perhaps back in your curriculum. I'm lucky because I teach ICT, so I can easily work it out, especially with global and virtual communication, because I think these are real global skills. But while we're sitting in Blackboard Collaborate, these kids have got to chat. So they can put all the questions they want to know. Like my kids are fascinated with bats and possums. They did nesting boxes for possums. But they are pests on our farms because they eat our fruit and our flowers. So, you know, there's just lots of extra learning that goes on, and the kids are curious, and every student's got a voice and can ask their questions. But I think the management is different. We have to learn to use like lots of visual objects. So I don't know if you can see the boomerang, because when we connect with Asia, those kids, the language problem can be challenging. But if we can show things, we can also perhaps give meaning to what we're saying. Having a text chat, say in Skype or Google Hangouts, helps create understanding as well.
Okay, so you're using, you said Skype, you said Blackboard Collaborate, you said Google Hangout. So what's your bandwidth like? And of those tools, when do you determine which tool to use?
The tool is usually determined probably by the people I connect with. So we connect with a teacher in Indonesia who's just got her one laptop, really poor bandwidth, so Skype, and she does it just with the classroom. So we use Skype there. Now you can hear the bell and the noise will come in. So we use Skype a lot. I love Blackboard Collaborate because I can pull back the bandwidth here very easily. So Skype will go flaky. We have to have backup plans. So if you want to do something formal, we might have to have 2 or 3 agreed times. Google Hangouts is very, very demanding on bandwidth. So I have to cable in for that. So my laptop at the moment is cabled in to make sure I don't drop out. So Skype, Blackboard Collaborate are my tools of preference, but you have to be adaptable and work on whatever it suits the other person and class.
So Blackboard now pretty much doesn't sell Collaborate to individual schools. Is there a larger agreement within your state or something? How do you get access to it?
Oh, okay. I am really lucky to teach in Victoria, and we used to have an innovation and next practice branch. We have a digital learning branch, which are really out there. So they pay for a license for teachers in Victoria to use Blackboard Collaborate. So we train as a moderator. We then get access to our own booking system, and I can book rooms whenever I need to with classes. And I can then bring in global students that way if the other teachers got, if they're comfortable enough with trying to get in, access it and use it. So we've actually put students from Japan, America, Malaysia, we've all come into Blackboard Collaborate, and that's where the most valuable learning starts, because the kids can write on the whiteboard together, share pictures, ask questions.
So you live on a farm, right?
Yes, I live on a farm. So if you have a look here, this is the back gate of our school. We are surrounded by farm lands. We have 150 people who live in the town. So every student nearly gets bussed into school, but we do have reasonable access to the internet, and the kids have got their own device. So they will use Blackboard Collaborate on either a netbook, I haven't got the picture, I'll use a netbook in action, or the desktop.
So when you tell your farmer neighbors that you've been talking to somebody in Japan and Singapore and the United States, do they even believe you?
Yes, I think they're used to us now, and the kids get excited and go home and tell their parents. But we've also brought in parents remotely into Blackboard Collaborate so they can be part of these sort of exciting connections.
Okay, if you have a question for Anne, if there's something you always wanted to ask her, and it doesn't have to do with her wearing garb from 50 years ago to celebrate the anniversary of her school, or I guess it could, this is your chance. So what have you always wanted to ask Anne? Or what did you just decide you want to ask her? You can either take the microphone. Everybody now can turn on their microphone by clicking on the talk button. Or you can put a note in the chat. So Anne, how did you feel at the very beginning, Maria wants to know?
I couldn't believe it. Like, Evan is in the room here, and Evan was actually one of the very first teachers that I connected with. And I think when you have a very special connection with others, you never, ever forget them. Again, as I said, English-speaking countries are so difficult for us to connect with. But Australia is in the middle of Asia, so if we can connect with them, that gives us real global, political, cultural, learn cultural sensitivity, etc. Because my kids are culturally isolated, so we're very much white Caucasian. So for them to see someone in a hijab from Malaysia, I'll never forget one of the boys on Mr. Skype just said to her, "Aren't you hot in those things?" And the girl just said, "No, she's not." So on they went with the next question, and they got their curiosity relieved about the Muslim-type Islamic gear, and we went on with the next lot of questions together.
Anne, are you going to be at ISTE 2014?
I hope so. I put my name down for 2 presentations, and I'm saving madly now. So yes, I hope so.
I think you could be the poster person for Connected Educators. I mean, I don't know how it comes in any better a package than you, right? Question before I think you're going to have to go on. We've got at the top of the hour, Tom DeBoer is going to come on and tell us about tomorrow's activities, and then we'll keep going after a quick break from Tom. But there was a question here about why did you start Tech Talk Tuesdays?
I think I'm in a very remote area. It takes me 4 hours to get to Melbourne. When I get to Melbourne, it's too much to drive there and back in one day. So it costs me money. I have to stay overnight. It costs me effort. The school doesn't like me leaving my senior classes. But I started Tech Talk Tuesday because I understood the magic of being able to be in my own environment, not have to leave, school classes. It costs nothing, it's effortless, etc. So I think I started about, I don't know if that was 5 years ago now, and it's been going on. So I think that's why I started. It was just magical to be able to connect. In my school there's 22 staff, so there's not a lot of opportunity to share and discuss means of using technology. But the globe can come into Tech Talk Tuesday, and that's where the conversations are.
If there was a standing ovation icon, I'd be using it right now. Okay, we're lucky to have Tom DeBoer here. Tom is the eclectic All Things Connected Educator Month man, and we're going to take a quick break as Tom tells us about what's going on tomorrow with Connected Educator Month, and then we're going to come back and go through this lovely process again with Alice Keeler, another poster child for Connected Education. Tom, are you there?
I am, Steve. Tomorrow is an interesting day. Today was a couple things I noticed on the calendar, but then I want to talk about a couple things that are not on the calendar. The Learning Forward, which is a great professional development organization, has their first event on the calendar. They're doing a MOOC on skillful team leadership that starts tomorrow and runs to the 25th. And I look at it, and that may be sort of more they may have intended that maybe more for building level or district level folks, but I would say teachers who are team leaders ought to be looking at that. Taking IT global. Sorry, I got dropped there for a second. International Day of the Girl Child is tomorrow, and so the Taking IT Global folks and Global Education Center have an event talking about issues facing girls, educational issues, and other issues facing girls around the world. You know, we love this event to be as global as possible. That's a big part of what's being connected.
So before Tom is dropping off, I can see that I get these little indicators that show he's having a bandwidth issue, and Tom will come back. Tom, when you come back, just grab that mic. We'll give you one more try, and if it doesn't work, feel free to send it to me, and I'll read it to the gang. Are you there? You don't have to turn your mic back on, though.
Yep. Okay. Let's see if I stay on this time. So that's a great initiative, reform initiative that'll have 100+ sessions and 10+ keynotes from all over the world. It's about you know, sharing and celebrating the wow moments in teaching, and it's going to be a terrific event. So the headliner tomorrow. Well, it really is international. It starts, in fact, with a speaker from Spain as a keynote, who's going to be talking about the ways in which education, what technology that we think of as futuristic is already here, and what the impact of that's going to be on education. And then the real headliner tomorrow is we're going to be very blessed to have Sugata Mitra. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with his work, and if you're not, he's sort of the lead researcher that showed the extent to which kids can self-organize and do their own learning. And I'm sitting here tonight sort of struggling with how I'm going to promote that event, because I know that concept is probably a little scary to some folks. I don't think it's scary at the end of the day. I think that right now, I think it's actually freeing for educators to know that the kids can do more on their own than sometimes we think they can. And you know, it frees us up to focus on what we do best instead of feeling like we have to do everything. So I think this is going to be a great event. I really would encourage everybody to come and see it. Other things on the calendar really quick. Let's see. Well, Steve, I mean, we'll talk tomorrow night about Saturday and Sunday, but are there other things you'd like to share?
Tom, unfortunately, you keep going in and out. It seems like it's maybe a bandwidth thing. I'm not sure why, but I think we got most of what you were trying to get, and really appreciate you doing that. And we will connect tomorrow about the weekend and what's going on there. And we already talked about guests tomorrow night, Bill Brennan and David Lurcher. David Lurcher is kind of another hero of mine, and you'll find out why if you come tomorrow. He's a unique voice in the library world. Okay, and Gordon, thanks for putting that in on the International Day of the Girl Child. And yeah, Tom, go ahead and let Alice know the Twitter handles for retweeting there. Thanks. Sorry that was problematic. I'm sure you're frustrated, but I think we got most of it. Okay, so let's go to Alice now. I'll turn my video back on. I think it was the combination of having the video on as well. So Alice, is there something you're really spending time thinking about now?
Well, I spend a lot of time these days thinking about gamification and just different ways to motivate students who don't connect with school. I'm not getting my doctorate, like I said, in educational technology, but I'm emphasizing in gaming. So, I work with inner city kids who traditionally do not connect with schools and weren't successful, and so I look at what are strategies we can do to kind of draw them in. So my really big passion is about developing relationships with students so that they'll want to do work for a variety of reasons. Just because they make a connection with you is really powerful.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question. If it's too personal, you don't have to answer it. But are you willing to talk about where you live?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I intend to live in the inner city of Fresno, California. Fresno has some of the highest concentrated poverty in the nation, and I sold my house in the suburbs, and I moved downtown where I live next to drug dealers and prostitutes. Actually have some really great neighbors. Probably about 50% are not citizens, but then there's just a variety of people who are high. This is kind of like the meth capital. Gangbangers, just a variety of folks live in this neighborhood. So it's 80% transiency rate and 14% home ownership. So there's some real unique challenges for the kids in this neighborhood. So if you can imagine teaching kindergarten, if you were to start off with 20 kids at the end of the school year, only 2 of them would be at the end of the year that had started the year. I just really have a passion for, how do we help these kids who, when we give them homework, they don't have the support structure at home, and how can we change what we do in the classroom to help all kids be successful?
Yeah, if I'm thinking about you, I think the word intentional is probably really high on the list. And, you made this decision to do this. I feel like your life is very intentional. But I also have this memory of meeting you for the first time. And this could be complete fabrication, right? I mean, who knows if it's a...
I'd love to tell the story when I met you.
Well, so my story of meeting you was, I remember you being really shy. Is that accurate at all? I think we've talked about this before, but I feel like a lot of us have kind of grown up through the connecting that we've done on the web, and it has given us sort of a new sense of self and a purpose and passion and vision. So this cartoon vision I have of you from years ago was this sort of shy, quiet lady who now is like this sort of superstar.
Thanks, Steve. I mean, just being connected gives you a lot of confidence that you're doing the right thing. I describe myself as a Twitter bully. If you're not on Twitter, I will commandeer your phone and I will make you be on Twitter, and I'll peer pressure you into it, because being connected with other people is the best thing that you can do as an educator. So what was it, 4 years ago, I remember seeing Steve at the Q conference, and he was given Q-tips, which was just a really short presentation, and I'm like, oh, that's Steve Oregon! And I think I went over to him, and I'm like, can I speak your head? Such a groupie dweeb, but, you don't realize some of these people that we look at on Twitter and these connected, how approachable they are, and how much they love to share and are willing to, reach out and be your friend. And I super appreciate that about you, Steve. And I remember telling you that I'm pretty sure I walked up to you and I said that I stalked you, but not in a creepy way, and that I thought that we should be friends and collaborate together. And your response, rather than thinking that I was the weirdest person ever, was absolutely. So I think you'll find a lot of people and educators are like that, and as you connect with more people like that, and you see how giving and open and supportive people are, it just helps build your confidence for you being a connected educator who shares and gives also. So I think I've grown a lot since I first met you, and I think you helped me set the tone for that.
Oh my gosh, that is just so delightful. Okay, you had a question in the chat from Gail. Do your children go to your neighborhood school?
That's a great question. No, they do not. And the reason for that is multifold. They were going to a charter school that was just down the street here that I could throw a rock on it. But my husband teaches in a rural school district about 20 minutes south in Crothers. There's one street in the whole town. And Because I do travel so much, it's really not reasonable for me to be able to get my kids to school and pick them up. So my, like I said, 5 kids. My 9-year-old actually does go to a neighborhood school. She rides her bike with her friend because she's old enough to do that, and I've made arrangements with the parent. But the younger 2 go, well, not the youngest 2, but the next 2 in line go to school with my husband out in a small farm town community, which I really love. I love it out there.
Okay, so I think it was your description of games that really got me thinking about the ways in which games address learning. So do you want to talk a little bit about scaffolding and the ways in which games move? I think the connection you made for me was sort of math and games, and how instead of moving everybody at the same pace, math really benefits from people being able to move along as they grasp a concept, because if you have to move forward in time without actually having grasped the concept, you really get sort of lost. Did I portray that accurately?
Well, that's definitely something I believe in. Just to be clear, there's 2 kind of concepts. One is games and one is gamification. And I actually support both, but my shtick is more on the gamification side. So when I play games, what do I learn from that game that I can apply to teaching? So from playing World of Warcraft, what you'll notice is if you get into this virtual world is that people are at all different levels, and they're at levels and not grades. You notice that we don't attach C students on the top of anybody's avatar. Another thing that it just drives me crazy, I feel like we label kids sometimes with grades. And so, when I go out and I do a class and I do something, it is at my level. Being a level 20, I am never put in a situation where I have to compete against people who are level 40 or trying to do a task that's above the level that I'm at. And because it's frustrating, and then you give up. And so especially as a math teacher, I see a lot of kids who come into my algebra class who they can't multiply. And I'm trying to get them to do the quadratic formula, and their confidence in their math skills are low to begin with. And so when I propose to them, one of my favorite lessons actually is the proof of the quadratic formula by completing the square. And as crazy as that sounds, it's actually really good. But you start off with ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and through this whole entire derivation, I get down to x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b. I'm not going to talk about it because it'll scare people away. But it's, it's 13 steps and it's really long. And so if you're not ready for that, I've lost all those kids. They have tuned out. So by learning from grades is how we, or games rather, is how we can deliver to students the challenge that's just above where they're at. I think that's a great way that we can help students engage with us all semester instead of like, I'm just taking summer school and then they're not going to do anything all year. I had a connection I was going to make. But anyway, so with games, I think that we can learn a lot from that, just by giving them a level, by approaching where they're at, rather than trying to overwhelm them. And technology helps us to actually make that possible, because how do you teach a diverse room of learners? And I mean, it's a challenge. Teaching algebra, my last year that I taught algebra in the suburban school that I was teaching at, they doubled my class size and they eliminated all of the basic math classes. And so how do I deal with kids who can't multiply all the way up with kids who just barely missed the cutoff in junior high to be in freshman geometry? And it was exhausting. I mean, I really went overboard trying to differentiate my instruction and work in small groups and to break them up, and did some pretty crazy things. But by using technology, it does allow me to help kids identify where they're at and to work at where they're at. And I'd like to see more of that in schools. And
I don't know how much you've been able to pay attention given a possible room switch, but is there anything you would want to ask Alice?
Yeah.
And your mic's not on, unfortunately, so we haven't heard anything you've said. Darn.
Sorry. I put my video on, tried to adjust my lace cap, and forgot the microphone. I find that students are highly engaged with games. You know, there's excitement, there's fun, there's small groups chatting together, there's kids teaching each other. So what you're saying really fascinates me. But are you documenting any of what you're discovering anywhere for us to read?
That's a great question. I blog at alicekeeler.com, and I do post a little bit on gamification. I'm starting to post a little bit more there. I did blog at gamecurriculum.com, gaming curriculum. Unfortunately, I switched servers, and somewhere in the switch, my domain got expired. So I'm just waiting for it to be released so I can reboot that, although I'm just considering merging them both together with alicekeeler.com because my passion for learning and gamification is really starting to merge together just with my everyday stuff that I'm doing. But I am a prolific sharer, so anything that I'm doing, I put it out on Twitter, I blog it, I interact with people. I think it's selfish to keep things to yourself. So and I will share both my success, but even more important, I will just share my failure. Because I have probably more failure than success, just like Michael Jordan, right? You know, to get started with gaming is to be willing to fall on your face a lot because it's a new realm.
So, Alice, can I ask you, do you ever chat to any students and ask them what games they're playing, what they're interested in at the moment, what devices they're using? Or how do you find out where their passion is or engagement at the moment?
I really feel like that is my role as an educator, is to design the learning environment. It's to design the interactions between myself and the students, and student to student, and then student to information. And so my job is not to necessarily give information. So what that frees me up to do when I rethink my role is to find out what kids are passionate about. And so that kid who's flicking pencils at the ceiling, you know, I'm going over and I'm talking to him, and I'm finding out what games he's playing, and I'm trying to figure out how I can connect what that kid likes with what we're learning. And I think that's super important. And most kids do play games, and so that's a great entry. I mean, I know you can't tell, but I'm only 5'4". I'm a fairly petite female, and so when I get up in front of my math class and I tell my whole class of students that I play World of Warcraft, which I don't know if anybody is familiar with this game, but it's pretty nerdy. It's a MMORPG where you have an avatar and you run around the woods and kill spiders and bad guys. And it's always like, oh, Miss Keeler, you play World of Warcraft? And you know, just right there, I can make connections with them because they'll want to start sharing what games they play. And now they're in a safe space. My favorite is that kids will almost always go home and look up my character, and they'll just come back and be like, oh, Keeler, you suck. Your character, you need all this gear and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I totally need that. I'm not going to change it because I'm such a casual player. I actually play so I can learn the gaming mechanics. But that kid now feels like he's got a connection with me and is an authority over me on something that he can teach me something. And I think games are a great way to do that because I play games, but I'm not an expert in games. But the kids are. So when they are like, oh, this is what I do, and I value that they play the games, then they value what I want to give to them also.
So how did the two of you deal with the game addiction question?
I don't know that that's an issue for me. You know, Peggy, she plays World of Warcraft in the classroom, and if you've ever played World of Warcraft or even Farmville, it is fairly addicting. So I think being part of a community of people who have some balance, and especially as adults, we introduce kids to different passions and ideas, and trying to get them hooked on other stuff. That their gaming addiction is my perfect entry point into how I can connect them with other stuff because they're that passionate about something, even if it's not algebra. Anne?
Sorry, if that was a question, can you just repeat because the noise came into the staff room? Sorry.
There was a question in the chat about students who were growing addicted to Minecraft, or a comment. I don't know that it was meant in a negative way, but it raised the question of game addiction. So, Anne, have you addressed that at all?
We had a student 2 years ago whose parent told me that they were addicted to gaming, and so much so that they were becoming physically violent at home. And yet if you knew this student in school, he was the quietest, most unassuming student. So that's the only one that we know of, but that's one that's always in the back of my mind as a worry. And I see that there's a question about the bookworm problem. The bookworms also want to come in at lunchtime and find a room where they can read, along with those kids that just want to play games. So I think these are all challenges for us as teachers with our management in the classroom.
Okay, we're going to shift gears here one more time to keep this hour fun. We're going to turn the tables here. So those of you who are participating, we would like you to put your, if you are a Twitter user, put your Twitter handle in the chat, along with something that you're very interested in or care about, something that's really engaging you. And we're going to let Anne and Alice ask you questions. So if you're a Twitter user, you can use your Twitter handle and then something that you are working on or care about or are passionately interested in. If you don't use Twitter, then you can put your blog address or just put your name. And we'll let Anne and Alice watch the chat and then pick someone to call on to see if they can find out more. And I guess Tom is interested in playing Pong. Okay, Gail says, I'm eager to create meaningful number talks with my kindergarten class. Gail says, early learning in technology and how to help teachers learn to harness the tools to excite and enhance learning. Peggy must head off. Okay, Alice, what's a number talk? And Gail, do you have a microphone on your computer? Can you answer that by turning on the microphone? Click on the talk button.
You have two Gails in the room. Which one are you talking to, Steve?
Oh, the Gail who put in create meaningful number talks. Gail P., that's you, right?
Yeah, that's me. I took a fantastic course through Stanford this summer. It was a MOOC online. It was amazing. Many thousands of people signed up for this class, and it took off like wildfire. And it created a passion in me for meaningful number talks with my class so they could develop in their own way their own understandings of numbers, quantities, number relationships, the patterns, how to solve problems, and how to just look at numbers as more than just one step after another, but also to share those conversations so that we can all benefit by each other's learning and understanding. So I'm really eager to do that, and when we're talking games, we're talking engaged students. So if I can find a way to combine games with number talks, I think I'd have a real home run, and every kid who leaves my class would want to be a math teacher.
So games can be just universal. I mean, anything that you're doing, you can turn into a game through gaming mechanics. It's gamification. I have a really fun game that I can find the link to. I linked it out earlier. I call it Math Baseball. And so almost any type of game that you play, it's Jeopardy, baseball, soccer, whatever, you can just kind of like think how the rules are and modify it for whatever your task is. So you want to get the kids talking. What kind of game is kind of social that you could repurpose? You might even be able to do something like Duck, Duck, Goose. So you can get the kids up and moving around as they touch each person on the head, kind of saying something they're thinking about, and having kids share out as whoever's sitting in the mush pot. I mean, I'm just making that up, but I mean, you can think of applying a fun situation that gets kids into a comfortable zone of something they feel comfortable with, which helps break down the anxiety that they're being, tested or judged on what they're saying.
Because we've only got a couple of minutes here, I'm going to move on to ask Anne. Anne, was there anything you saw in the chat that you wanted to follow up on?
Yes, Steve. I liked Gail Lovely's question. Now I've got to scroll way up. Because Gail works with the young, and in our school we've got prep right through to year 12. And I'm fascinated with, I never had to teach the kids last year when I had prep how to use a computer. They all knew what the keyboard, the mouse was. Now that's something different to say 5 years ago where we taught students all of those. So Gail, I can't find your question, but Gail Lovely, are you able to grab a mic and talk about it, please?
Gail says no mic, but she has keyboarding skills. It's going to say something about me that the first thing that comes to my mind is nunchuck skills. Right? What movie have I seen way too many times because of my kids? Bonus points for those who know that. While we're waiting for Gail to type, Tracy, do you want to grab the mic? I think a couple of us thought that was very interesting, the differentiating professional development and maybe the connection to then differentiating student learning. I think maybe she's left the room, unfortunately. Okay, 3 minutes to go. Go ahead, Anne.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, as a teacher, I'm not into gaming myself. I still love playing, you know, a deck of cards, etc. But I think teachers need to be aware of where students might be able to go, etc. They might feel fearful. You know, how can we help them and support them? I guess that's where the connected educator comes in, correct? Because it's the same with what I do with connecting in real time. A lot of teachers think it's too hard, too difficult, don't want to know about it. It's much easier to teach in a traditional classroom.
Okay, any final words, Alice?
I can always talk, but nothing immediately comes to mind other than, you know, if we're going to talk about games, which I was, is just give them a try and play. Play games is the best place to start.
And any final words from 50 years ago?
No, but
We lost you again there, Anne. I think your mic turned off.
Sorry, Steve. I just think it's rather weird. Here I am with olden day costume, with my headset on, my laptop at my desk, and some staff have been laughing at that. But you know, we certainly probably classroom management hasn't changed a great deal. It's just changed a little bit in the way we approach it.
Again, I wish I had a standing ovation button. I'm just so glad I know both of you. You've enriched my life. Both of you have. So thanks for coming on tonight. Thanks everybody for being here. We do try and end on time to make this fun. So much wisdom, yes. Anne Mirtschin and Alice Keeler, two of my personal heroes who've joined us in the cafe tonight. Thanks everybody. Have a great night or day depending on where you are. Bye now. Oh, and Anne has a document she's going to post. She's posted the link to it to continue the conversation if you want. And if that's still in your cache there and you can paste it back in, there's been some chat that scrolled by. Let people grab that one more time before we turn things off.
Thanks, Steve, for having us on. This was super fun.
It was fun. Thanks, Alice. Thanks, Anne. Bye.